In order to create our game, we need to accomplish several tasks. We need to have an environment in which the player moves, which simulates a realistic environment in which you can't walk through walls and you can't fall through the floor. In addition to this, we need to accomplish the task of creating a player. A player needs to have a movement in a player controller, and in addition, a player must have a camera element, which follows the movement of the player controller to create a first-person viewpoint. First, we'll look at the environment and what was accomplished here. In order to create a scene with realistic audio, we decided our scene should be similar to our experiment space, i.e. the Johnson Center. First, assets that would shape our floor, walls, windows, door, and ceiling were created and textured using photos of the Johnson Center surfaces to best simulate what acoustical surfaces were present in our experiment so that they can be present within the game. After construction of the scene, assets were created to simulate the chair on which the speakers were rested and the speakers themselves. They were created using Maya. After the basic assets were in the game, a lighting grid was initialized and built. Each were programmed with their own range of lighting to allow for a better gameplay experience. In addition, the fixtures were made to simulate the Johnson Center fixtures, so that the amount of glass would almost replicate the amount of glass within the Johnson Center, allowing for more accurate environment to allow for more accurate audio. Finally, a dynamic mesh was programmed into the environment to limit player movement. The mesh does not include space outside of the floor, so the player cannot move outside of the mesh or walk through walls, giving it actual physical attributes that make this a realistic experience. Next, a character controller was programmed using a script that is heavily physics-based. A variable containing user input was created, and that affects both the X and the Y axis. Direction is the resulting vector, used to change the position of the character controller. However, without a measure of velocity and gravity, the player would float in the plane and would move at a very erratic speed. For this reason, the speed variable is created. Having movement and speed allows us to create the physics-based vector of velocity, because velocity is just speed with direction. To create gravity acting on our character, we must use this vector of velocity and apply it to our y-axis at the scientific value of gravity, negative 9.8 meters per second squared. Now that we have realistic movement, we can use scripts to allow our character to look around based on inputs from the mouse. To do this, we store inputs from the mouse and have those values affect rotation of the camera. Euler angles are angles which have to do with the effects of a rigid body in a fixed coordinate plane. Using these Euler angles, we affect rotation of the body without transforming or moving it within the scene, just changing and transforming the rotation of the camera. Each of these elements combine to create a scene that is accurate to a person traversing a hallway listening to realistic audio. Alright, so let's take a look at how this all comes together: the environment, the player controller, and being able to look around. As you can see, whenever I move my mouse, the point of view changes. The top window shows what is happening in the game as if we were playing it, and the bottom window is our design window. It includes the capsule and the camera, which are hidden by first-person movement within the actual game. However, in the design window, we need them to hold our place. When I influence the arrow keys, our position is changed, not just the rotation of the camera. Both of these combined lead to an actual first-person experience. As you can see, we are not capable of walking through the walls and we are not floating. This has to do with the implementation of gravity and a mesh. In addition, we are not moving at an erratic, really fast speed due to the fact that we have a velocity vector controlling the speed of the player. This all adds to making a realistic first-person player. Overall, all of these work in a foundation to create a scene in which we can listen to audio, move towards it and away from it, as if we were actually in the hallway doing so.